His lips met mine with a kind of hunger I had never known before. The air around us felt thick, heavy with emotions I could neither name nor deny. His hands trembled slightly as they brushed against my skin. And in that instant, I forgot everything that once defined me: wife, aunt, mother, woman of principle. All I could feel was the storm inside me, the rush of something forbidden yet achingly beautiful. And then, when he whispered my name with a tenderness that tore through every wall I had built, I realized I was standing on the edge of a cliff, one step away from losing everything. Before we go any further, I want to take a moment to thank everyone watching this story. To my returning viewers, thank you for always being here. To my new audience who are yet to subscribe, I truly cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button, because your support is the fuel that keeps this channel alive. Please share your thoughts in the comments once this story ends. Your words mean more than you know. Now, let us go back to where it all began. It was a quiet morning in late autumn. The sun was pale and distant, hanging like a memory over the Virginia sky. I remember standing by the kitchen window, staring at the trees shedding their last leaves. My marriage had grown cold by then. David and I barely spoke beyond necessary words. He had become more of a roommate than a husband, always buried in work, always somewhere else even when he sat beside me. That was when Ethan called. Ethan was my sister's only son, bright, polite, and far too trusting of the world. His voice sounded broken that day. He told me he had lost his job in Baltimore, his apartment lease had expired, and he had nowhere to go. I felt something maternal stir inside me, that urge to protect and nurture. Without hesitation, I told him to come stay with us until he could get back on his feet. When Ethan arrived, it felt almost natural. He had grown taller, broader, more confident than I remembered. His laughter filled the spaces that had been empty for years. Even David seemed to lighten up a little around him. But it was me who felt the strongest pull, that dangerous warmth I could not name. The first few days were innocent. We talked a lot, about his dreams, his frustrations, his plans for the future. I cooked for him, offered advice, and tried to keep things light. But something shifted one evening when David was working late. Ethan and I sat on the couch, a movie playing quietly in the background. He was talking about how he felt like a failure, how every decision he made seemed to backfire. Without thinking, I reached out and touched his hand. I meant it as comfort, but when he looked at me, there was something in his eyes that froze me, a mixture of pain and yearning. I pulled my hand back quickly and laughed it off, but inside, I felt a spark I had not felt in years. That night, I could not sleep. My mind kept replaying that moment, the warmth of his hand, the way his voice had softened when he said my name. I hated myself for even thinking about it. He was family. He was my sister's son. But loneliness has a way of blurring moral lines. Over the next few weeks, our connection deepened in ways I did not intend. Ethan started helping around the house, fixing things David never bothered to. We would stay up talking long after midnight, about music, love, regrets. He would tell me I deserved to be happy, that I was too kind to be invisible. His words filled the empty spaces that my husband's silence had left behind. One evening, after a long day at work, I came home to find Ethan in the kitchen cooking dinner. The smell of roasted garlic and rosemary filled the air. He looked up and smiled, and something inside me broke. He was standing exactly where my husband should have been, doing what my husband never did. I thanked him softly, trying to ignore the rush of emotions building inside me. Later that night, when I went to bed, I heard a soft knock on my door. It was Ethan, holding a cup of tea. He said he noticed I looked tired, that he wanted to make sure I was all right. The gesture was simple, but his care felt deeper than anything I had known in years. That was the beginning. Not of love, perhaps, but of something that felt dangerously close to it. I started to notice everything about him. The way his laughter filled a room, the way his eyes softened when he listened. He made me feel seen again, alive again. And yet, every moment of joy came with a sting of guilt. I knew this was wrong. I knew I should have drawn a line. But emotion is not a creature of reason. Then came the night that changed everything. The power had gone out during a storm. The house was dark, silent except for the rain against the windows. Ethan lit a candle and brought it to the living room. We sat together, talking quietly, the candlelight flickering between us. The warmth of that light seemed to erase the world around us. I do not know who moved first. Perhaps it was me. Perhaps it was him. But when our eyes met, the silence became unbearable. One heartbeat later, everything I believed in shattered. When it was over, the silence was deafening. I remember sitting there, trembling, my heart racing with both terror and longing. Ethan whispered something I cannot forget. "I did not mean to fall for you." And I wished he had not said it, because hearing those words made it real. From that moment on, nothing was the same. Morning light spilled into my bedroom that day, soft and cruel. The world looked ordinary, but nothing inside me was the same. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed, wrapped in silence, unable to breathe. My mind kept replaying what had happened the night before. His eyes, his trembling hands, the sound of rain outside the window. Every second that passed brought a wave of guilt so heavy I could hardly stand. Ethan was still in the guest room down the hall, and I could feel his presence even through the walls. The air between us had changed. Something sacred had been broken. When I finally gathered the courage to walk downstairs, he was already there, sitting at the dining table, a cup of coffee in his hands. He looked as if he had not slept either. His eyes met mine for a moment, and then he looked away. No words were spoken. None were needed. The silence said everything. That morning, I made breakfast as though nothing had happened. I moved through the motions, pouring juice, flipping pancakes, setting the table, pretending to be the woman I had been before. David walked in a few minutes later, still half-dressed for work, mumbling about deadlines and meetings. He kissed my cheek, and the gesture made my stomach twist. For the first time in my life, my husband's touch felt like a lie, not because of him, but because of me. I tried to keep my eyes on the frying pan, but I could feel Ethan's presence behind me, his silence louder than the sizzling oil. When David finally left for work, the sound of the front door closing felt like a thunderclap. The house was too quiet again. Ethan stood there for a long moment before he finally spoke. "Aunt Lena," he began softly, his voice breaking at the edges, "we should not have let that happen." I nodded. I knew he was right. But even as I agreed, a strange ache began to grow inside me, a longing that terrified me. "We will forget it," I said quickly. "It never happened." He nodded too, but we both knew we were lying. The days that followed were a battle I fought inside myself. Every time I looked at Ethan, I saw what I was trying to erase. Every time I heard his voice, my heart betrayed me. He tried to keep his distance, but that distance only made me crave the closeness we once shared. Not the physical part, but the emotional one, the quiet connection that had made me feel alive again. I buried myself in chores, in errands, in meaningless routines. But guilt has a way of living beneath the surface, whispering when you least expect it. Some nights, I would wake up with tears on my face, haunted by the memory of something that felt both beautiful and poisonous. One evening, about a week later, David asked if Ethan could stay longer. "He seems to be doing better here," he said. "He needs family right now." His words cut me deeper than he knew. David was unknowingly extending my punishment. Ethan started helping David around the house more often. They fixed the leaky roof together, worked on the old car in the garage, shared beer while watching baseball on weekends. I watched them from a distance, my heart twisting in a knot of shame and affection. I could see how much Ethan admired him, how much he wanted David's approval, and I could see how blind my husband was to the tension that lived inside his own home. But secrets have a strange way of surfacing. Sometimes they do not need to be spoken. They show themselves in small, invisible cracks. David began to notice the changes in me first. "You are quiet these days," he said one night as we sat at the dinner table. "You used to talk more." I forced a smile. "Just tired," I said. "Work has been a lot." He nodded, but his eyes lingered on me a little too long, as if searching for something he could not name. Ethan excused himself from the table that night and went upstairs early. The silence that followed was suffocating. As weeks passed, the emotional distance between David and me grew, while the unspoken tension between Ethan and me burned quietly underneath it. Every time our eyes met, memories resurfaced. Every shared glance felt dangerous. I could feel myself unraveling, losing control of the boundaries I had built my life upon. One afternoon, while David was at work, Ethan came home earlier than expected. I was in the garden, trying to find peace in the quiet rhythm of planting. When I looked up and saw him standing by the fence, something inside me trembled. He looked older, somehow more burdened. His voice was low when he finally spoke. "I am trying to move on," he said. "I really am. But every time I see you," his voice trailed off. I closed my eyes, my hands tightening around the small shovel I was holding. "You have to," I whispered. "You have to forget." He took a step closer. "How can I forget something that changed me?" His words lingered in the air, heavy with emotion. I felt my chest tighten, my throat closing up. "Please, Ethan," I said. "Do not make this harder than it already is." He nodded, his eyes glistening. Then he turned and walked back toward the house, leaving me alone with my thoughts and my tears. That night, I could not eat. David noticed. "Lena, what is going on with you?" he asked, his tone soft but searching. "You are distant. You barely sleep. Is it work? Is it your sister?" I wanted to tell him the truth. I wanted to confess everything right there, to free myself from the weight that was killing me. But when I looked at him, the man who had shared my life for 17 years, the words died in my throat. "I am fine," I said. "I just need some time." He reached out and took my hand, his warmth foreign yet familiar. "Whatever it is," he said gently, "we will get through it." His kindness broke me in ways his anger never could have. As winter approached, Ethan received a job offer in another state. When he told me, I felt both relief and sorrow. It was the right thing, and yet the idea of him leaving felt like losing a part of myself. The night before his departure, I found him in the living room, sitting quietly with his suitcase beside him. We did not speak for a while. The air between us was heavy with everything we could not say. Finally, he looked at me and said, "I will never forget you." I wanted to tell him not to. I wanted to say I would never forget him either. But I stayed silent, because some truths are better left buried. When he left the next morning, the house felt emptier than it had in years. David hugged him goodbye, completely unaware of the storm that had passed between us. I stood by the doorway, watching Ethan walk away, the echo of his footsteps fading like a confession whispered into the wind. I thought it was over. I thought I could bury the past and move on. But I was wrong. Because sometimes the past refuses to stay buried. I used to believe that secrets could fade with time. That silence was strong enough to bury the truth. But I was wrong. Secrets do not die. They grow roots. They crawl through the cracks of your peace until they destroy everything in their path. It had been 6 months since Ethan left for North Carolina. The first few weeks were quiet, almost peaceful. David and I started talking again, trying to rebuild the comfort we had once shared. I thought maybe, just maybe, I could live with what I had done. But guilt is a restless shadow. It waits for the right moment to strike. That moment came on a Saturday morning. David had gone into the garage to fix something, and I was folding laundry in the living room. My phone buzzed. I picked it up without thinking. It was a message from Ethan. "Tell me you are okay." Just 5 words. But they broke everything. I froze. My hands trembled as I stared at the screen. I should have deleted it. I should have ignored it. But I did not. I typed, "I am fine. Please do not text me anymore." Then I hit send and placed the phone face down. I thought that was the end of it, until I heard David's voice behind me. "Who is Ethan asking if you are okay?" I turned around, my heart pounding. He was holding my phone. I had not heard him come in. His eyes were sharp, his face pale. I tried to speak, but the words tangled in my throat. "It is not what you think," I began. "Then what is it?" he asked quietly. Because from where I stand, it looks like my wife has something to hide. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. I could hear my own heartbeat, feel the weight of every unspoken truth pressing against my chest. "I helped him," I said finally. "He needed someone. I got too close." David's silence was more terrifying than his anger could have been. He stared at me, his jaw tightening, his hands trembling. "Too close," he repeated. "What does that mean, Lena?" The truth came out before I could stop it. Maybe part of me wanted it to. Maybe I was tired of living under the weight of my own deceit. It happened once, I whispered, and I have hated myself every day since. The look in his eyes shattered me. Shock, pain, disgust, betrayal. It was as if the ground beneath us gave way, and we were both falling, each grasping for something to hold on to. But there was nothing left. He did not shout. He did not curse. He just turned away, walked to the door, and said, "You broke everything that ever mattered." Then he left. The days that followed were a blur of silence and regret. David moved out the next week. My sister found out months later, when Ethan, overwhelmed by guilt, confessed to her. She stopped speaking to me. My family turned away one by one, and I could not blame them. The house that was once filled with laughter now echoed with emptiness. Every corner carried a memory I wished I could erase. I would catch myself sitting by the window, waiting for a car that never came, for forgiveness that never arrived. There were nights I would lie awake, replaying that single moment that had changed everything. The night I mistook loneliness for love. The night I said yes when I should have said no. It took years to rebuild what I had destroyed, not with others but within myself. I learned that betrayal is not only what you do to someone else, but what you do to your own soul. I lost my marriage. I lost my family. But the worst part was losing myself. There are still mornings when I wake up and see the sunlight streaming through the same window, and I remember the woman I used to be, before the storm, before the fall. And every single time, I whisper to myself the same lesson. One moment of weakness can burn down a lifetime of trust. If you have stayed with me till the end of this story, thank you from the bottom of my heart. To all my returning viewers, your loyalty, your time, and your presence mean everything to me. And to all my new viewers who are yet to subscribe, I truly cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button right now. Because your support is the heartbeat that keeps this channel alive. Please share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. Tell me how this story made you feel, what lesson it left behind, and whether you believe forgiveness is ever possible after betrayal. Your voice matters here. Your opinion helps this channel grow stronger. So go ahead, subscribe, like, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it today. Because sometimes, one story can save another soul from making the same mistake.